Sarah Stutman, welcome to Second Nature. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as a fan of the pod.
Come on, Lucy, look at us.
How
We got all
cool.
the hitters in the industry, like, actually proud to come on the pod. Look at this. How far have we come?
This is what I've been saying, man. It's like the Davos panel of the outdoor industry is all here.
Sarah, maybe quickly
I feel
just do
honored.
Yeah, well, we are honored. We are honored. Maybe quickly just do a 30-second intro. Who are you? What is your title and role at Lifetime?
Yeah, I'm Sarah Stutman. I am the Associate Director of Marketing for our off-road events at Lifetime. So those are the events that take place on dirt, whether it be mountain bike, gravel, trail run. So we have 12 brands that fit in our off-road space. I won't count the number of events that equates to because some of them have camps between our Leadville camps, Unbound camps, but we multiple events within a series. So we are a busy crew of people who love to play on dirt and hopefully help others reach big goals.
Well, there's so much to talk about here, and I think the Lifetime Grand Prix is what a lot of our audience will be familiar with, in addition to, the Leadville race series that is, both mountain bike and trail run focus. I'm a two-time Leadville 100 finisher myself, Sarah, going back to 2010,
Yeah,
2011. Not to brag, but maybe
do it. You should. Where's
yeah,
the
yeah,
buckle?
exactly. Actually, I do have a buckle. Actually, I have a very funny photograph that I'll share with you afterwards of
Okay.
me partying at an après ski thing, wearing a onesie, holding a PBR beer, looking like a 1980s, disco phenomenon, wearing my my Leadville 100 belt buckle. But we'll get to that later.
I know this photo. Is that photo from after the race? Or
Oh,
you just happen to be wearing the belt buckle?
yeah, it's from like 6 months after the race. Yeah,
Okay.
You
I
could wear
used
it
it.
anytime thereafter.
I would probably wear that belt buckle every day,
Those are
honestly.
some of my proudest possessions, those Leadville belt buckles. Enough about me, though, guys. Let's talk about Sarah. Let's talk about what you're doing. I think a good entry point would be to talk about the Lifetime Grand Prix. I remember when this was launched. I think we're in the 4th year of it now. So it was launched kind of into the teeth of COVID to much excitement, even penetrating into the trail running community. Obviously, gravel and off-road cycling has become this growing category, and it seemed like you guys identified that at a good time and brought together some phenomenal events into the Grand Prix. So maybe just give us a state of the Lifetime Grand Prix as you now enter into the 4th season.
Yeah, we're excited to kick off the Grand Prix at Sea Otter Classic coming up this year. So for those not super familiar with it, we have 6 events. They are all of our own events within Lifetime that are a mix of gravel and mountain biking. Um, and we take the top 50 cyclists, 25 men, 25 women, and we have about $380,000 of prize money on the table. And really, the goal of the Lifetime Grand Prix is to create fans of cycling, create excitement and passion over cycling, and create a pathway for the professionalization of cycling in the United States. And our that's really at the end of the day our goal. Like we see the excitement over cycling, we see the passion, the fans, and feel that there's an opportunity to connect that throughout the year, throughout the country in different race formats and bring that to life and provide opportunities for cyclists to have a profession, and hopefully for kids to watch and see, I can do this in the future. I can be a cyclist, I can make it work. And I think we're just seeing that excitement continue over the years of the event and continuing to draw interest and engage with our audience and engage with athletes.
It's we talked to Payson McKelvin last week,
Yeah.
actually on the podcast, and he was saying that one of the things that has sort of happened as a result of the Grand Prix picking up so much speed and momentum is that now it's actually influencing the European road scene. And I think, like, to put it in context for people that don't understand, I don't think there's been a moment in specifically the cycling industry, mountain bike industry in the States where there's been this much momentum, support, and ability for people to become professional athletes since probably the late 90s when, car companies and sort of outside sponsorship was coming in. And I think that this sort of represents actually a push from the inside, right? Like Lifetime has been such a big part of the cycling industry and fitness industry in general, where it's not necessarily, in my mind, I don't see it as like an outside sponsor. It's sort of part of that. But I'd be curious to know from your perspective, do you feel like Lifetime is sort of an outside sponsor that's coming in and opening these doors, or do you feel endemic?
I think we are. It's a great question. I think we're endemic. I mean, at the heart and soul, I was listening to your episode with Elisa from Adi, and I was thinking about it's a similar landscape with Lifetime as a company. At our core, we're a health and wellness company. Many people know us from our athletic clubs around the country, and as a place to work out. So we have this master brand. And our athletic events are a little bit similar to what she was talking about with Terex around you've got this outdoor brand within a larger brand that maybe is known for something else. And I think that our lifetime events are similar in that way. We've got this big brand that we're a part of and that makes sense within a bigger ecosystem, but lifetime athletic events at its core is about mass participation, grassroots, getting out onto the roads, dirt, trails, and finding ways to move outside and compete with yourself. And so I think of us as very much an endemic brand that is at its core about mass participation and getting people to participate in events and seeing what's possible. So that's how I view it, and I think that's how as a team we think about our business.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So maybe you could build off that a little bit more. Lifetime, of course, as you said, is known mostly as being a giant network of fitness facilities around the country, very well respected, probably the leader in that category, at least nationally, if not globally. And so I would love to know how you guys talk about events internally. Like if events are not like the key driver of the business, what purpose do they serve, and how like in your role, how are you interfacing with the greater organization in a way that sort of makes sure that the events have an important footprint within such a large company?
There's a couple of ways to think about it, but how I do is I think especially post COVID, and we're led as a company by our CEO Bahram Akradi is a visionary and is truly somebody when you're around him, you can hear his passion for helping people live, as we say, healthier, happier lives. And like that has evolved, I think, post COVID, especially as the business needed to look at itself and say, who are we? What are we doing? Like so many brands, just like it's a challenging moment, but also an opportunity to take a step back and see what makes sense for the business. And I think at that time, the company started shifting from we're a fitness facility, we have a physical brick and mortar place to go, to being we actually are a health and wellness brand that's the center. And then there's all these spokes that come out from it, including the clubs, but now we have a digital app, we have a podcast, we have magazine, we have health and wellness supplements, we have apparel, and we have events. And they're all a part of this ecosystem that if you want to improve your life, live in a healthy and happy way, and be active, this is the place you can come to and find the resources to do it. And events are taking that into a different space than where our clubs are. If you look at our off road events, we're in a lot of places that there are not lifetime clubs. We're in small towns in Emporia. We're in a new place, Anniston, Alabama, this fall. We're in places where maybe that's not there. And it's another way to connect to our brand. And it's another way to connect to being in a space where you have resources to tap into. So if you do our events, you can download the app and get training plans. You can get free classes, strength classes, learn more about nutrition supplements. So it all makes sense in a health and wellness space. And our events are an amazing touch point to like be with people along maybe an 8, 10, 12, 14-month journey to train for something, like that's a long time. You're invested.
Hmm.
So it makes sense for us when we think about it as health and wellness at the center of who we are versus we're just a physical club. So that's been the evolution, I think, especially in the past 5 years.
Lucy, before you pick up here, I just want to add that I have a memory from the 2011 Leadville 100 where the CEO of Lifetime, who founded the business way back in the early 90s, Bahram Akradi, who you just mentioned, he did the Leadville 100 that year. It was the first year that Lifetime had assumed ownership, and he finished after the 30-hour cutoff. So, you always have to appreciate and respect that when the CEO of the company steps to a 100-mile start line and completes it himself, even if it's after the cutoff. Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
That
he
right.
loves that event
Yeah.
so much. Like, I just was chatting with him about it a couple of weeks ago, and he has such a passion for the events as well, and understands that that brings a different connection point as a brand. Like, being physically somewhere with people, especially some of our events, like I just said, people are training and thinking about this. They may be plotting out their journey to Leadville or to Unbound for years, thinking, how am I going to get there? It's a mental, physical, um, financial commitment. And so, we're with people on a long journey, and then we get to see the payoff, at our events, which has a very different feel than being just a digital brand or being just a fitness club.
I think about this idea of capstone projects, where people work so hard to get this one thing. A lot of times it happens in school and stuff like that. And I think about it in the same way of like the event, the race is the capstone project, and then all the other stuff that you offer up is sort of the path to the capstone
Hmm.
project, right? It makes so much sense in sort of almost kind of a flywheel fashion. I'd,
Yes.
I'd love to go back a little bit to the Grand Prix. When it was first announced, I mean, it was a huge, huge investment that sort of it sent shockwaves through the industry of like, whoa, somebody's coming in and dropping a heap of cash. And like, how is this going to go? Are they going to overextend themselves? This is a one and done type thing. But to your credit, I mean, you've been around for a long time and established yourself in the sport and established this, like I said earlier, into something that's not only affecting the U.S. mountain bike scene and the U.S. trail scene, but it's also, turning heads all the way over in Europe as well. The question I want to ask is, how do you feel about where the event sits now that it's established? Do you feel like it's kind of job done and it's just about refining, or what are the things that you're thinking about for the future of specifically the Grand Prix?
I think as a team, and there's a very dedicated team that's working on the Grand Prix all the time, I think we will never feel like the job is done. It's not in the DNA, I think, of as who we are as a company. We believe in always getting better and doing more and really thinking about it. So even this year, we introduced a U23 program, thinking about how do we continue to build the next generation of cyclists. So that's something new that we're offering. It's basically a race within a race. So we'll have a U23 race scored system all season long, and those winners, one male, one female, will get a spot into the 2026 Grand Prix. And so I think for us, it's like thinking about what is our purpose both in cultivating fans, like that's another avenue. I think we can still do more to drive fan engagement, and introducing new people into the sport. I think we've scratched the surface, and I know there's always a call for more live coverage of the events. It's one of the challenges of our space, and some expectation from audience is to like watch all of Unbound in real time. And so how will we make that happen? How will we make our content more accessible? How will we foster the next generation? I think those are some of the topics that we are talking about constantly here. How do we get more women on bikes? All of that is like a constant conversation. So I don't think we will ever say, yep, we did that. Great. Okay, it's there. Move on. It's like we want to fine tune it. and figure out where it can continue to play an influential role in the industry.
You know, it reminds me, Aaron, mentioning that initial founding moment of Lifetime about some of the conversation that was happening, and always change is hard for people to metabolize in real time. And it reminds me too about when Lifetime assumed ownership of the Leadville 100, there was a lot of people who were skeptical about the direction of this iconic trail ultramarathon. I think now the consensus is that Lifetime has very much stewarded the Leadville 100 in a way that does justice to the spirit of trail running. And I'm sure you were wrestling with similar skepticism from the mountain bike and gravel communities about, you know, this large gym business, sort of like what are you doing sort of standing up this big event. So I don't know, maybe there's something you could comment on there about just sort of like listening to the community, to the industry, to sort of making sure that you are doing something that's in service of the broader culture and community.
It's top of mind. I actually live in Leadville, and we are, um, our communities are at the heart and soul of our events. And something we think about is like a success for our event is if people fall in love with the places that they go to. Like if you come to race Leadville, we hope you fall in love with Leadville, and not just in a way where you're coming and going, but that you feel connection to the community and maybe you want to give back in some way. And same way in Emporia, Kansas, in Austin, Texas, in Cable, Wisconsin, all these places. So being connected to that is really important, and um, having community partnerships as a part of that as well, and just staying really grounded in what these events are. You know, we're not trying to make these events be one culture. What we know that makes the event so successful, and that we're passionate about, is these are individual brands. They have heart and soul and are connected to the communities that they're in a very special way. And that's what makes them really successful. We're not trying to bring one brand across the country. We hope we bring an elevated experience and a standard that when you do one of our events, you know you're going to have a great experience. We're going to, you know, do the best we can to get you to the start line. We're going to make sure you have all the information. It's going to be safe. It's going to be really fun. And you're going to feel like you've had that capstone moment, like it's that payoff, it's there. But you're going to not feel like, if you go to Leadville, it's not going to feel the same as if you go to the Austin Rattler or to Schwamigan Mountain Bike Festival or anywhere else. Like that is at the core of what we think makes our events unique, and what we love about them. And I think what our teams love about them too. Like our teams love these brands. Like the people who work on them, like they are passionate about Schwamigan. They are passionate about Lutsen 99er. They're passionate about Unbound Gravel. Like they love the brands. And I think hopefully that comes through to our athletes as well.
You talked about, you know, these communities and kind of coming in and developing in Kansas and in Bentonville and everywhere else. One of the newest ones that you just launched is in Anniston, Alabama. And I think the question I have around that is, how do you decide when it's time, or what are the elements that go into creating a new event versus maybe acquiring an event?
It's not one formula, which it would be probably great if it was like a simple formula to make that happen. We're pretty strategic. You know, we don't launch a lot of new events. We don't acquire a ton of new events. It's got to be pretty specific. And so for this one in Anniston, just as a case study, was we were looking for something a little bit more easterly than we had been. That was something we thought was missing in our portfolio, as being a little bit more east. Um, and so how can we make that happen? And so it was years of scouting and thinking about what's the right community, what's the right set of magic to make it happen. Like how do we get great trails, a great community, somewhat accessible, all of those factors to come together to make the right decision for us. And for Anniston, I think the combination, it's only an hour and a half from Atlanta, it's an hour from Birmingham, super easy drives to get to, huge metropolis areas, people who are active in those areas. And we have a community in Anniston that is really excited to be a part of our event community and our event family. They are just so excited to have this event come to the community. They've invested millions of dollars in the state of Alabama to building purpose-built trails, 56 miles of single track, just a couple of miles from town, so super accessible. So those are some of the equations that we're looking at is like, what's the community partner look like? What's the trail system? This trail system actually also has, just as a little tidbit, has really great drainage. So if weather is bad, like we're not going to have a huge risk. It just poured rain. We were just there last week and it was pouring rain all night and into the morning. And we had a group ride scheduled for that afternoon. And the trails were like perfection hero dirt. I mean, beautiful within a couple of hours of rain. So all of those factors, like there's so many little things. It's not just throw a dart and see where it lands. It's very all the different factors that come together to make the right place at the right time happen. And I think this one was years in the making, and we'll see what's next.
And there's a combination of riding and trail running at this event.
Correct.
And obviously Leadville was sort of like maybe the first example of events that were serving both communities. How do you guys think about combining the two, when it makes sense, when it doesn't?
We talk about it a lot, and this year we're adding another event that will combine both in Tahoe at the Tahoe Trail, which is in Truckee at North Star. So that one has been a mountain bike race for a number of years, and some of it might just be a little bit of advocating. I'm a biker, a mountain biker, and a trail runner myself, and we were just like, we got to do a trail run here. What are we doing? What are we doing only having a mountain bike event here? So that was one that I was advocating for the trail running side. We have these beautiful trails. We're already here. Let's make it happen. So I think we'll keep looking at those opportunities to bring both communities together, because I think we're seeing people do multiple sports. We're seeing people who are like, yeah, I want to try a mountain bike race followed by a run the next day, or vice versa, or families that are split, and friends. It just gives more opportunities to think about it. So yeah, just trying to pick and choose the right places to do it that has the right type of terrain and community that makes sense, and what's the rest of the landscape look like. But I as a multi-sport athlete, very recreational athlete myself, I hope that we do more of both.
And I think practically speaking, we could admit it. It probably makes a lot of sense from a business perspective, right? Like you've already got the courses marked, you've got the aid stations set up, you've got the volunteers in place. You know, the operational team is on the ground already. Why not hold multiple events? It makes sense, right?
That's how I feel. And then you talk to the race directors and they're like, let me figure out, if we're doing it on one day, how does this web of everything work so you don't have bikers hitting runners and overlapping. And so I give our race directors and operations teams, especially when we've got multiple events happening on one day across different disciplines, I don't envy the spreadsheet job of figuring out where people are going to be on course so that there's not these big intersection points. I have seen the spreadsheets, and I'm always glad that I just have to figure out how to tell the story and not have to figure out the minute by minute flow.
I was telling Dylan that trail running is a lot like mountain biking, just a little bit slower. But, same essence.
Yes.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into this Anniston, Alabama thing, because I don't know if it's me, but I feel like the Southeast is somehow figuring out, and maybe I'm just ignorant to it. Maybe we are collectively realizing that there's a lot more sort of gold in the hills, but it seems to me that a lot of people are following suit after Bentonville kind of, put shovels in the dirt to make mountain biking stand out, to make these opportunities happen. And obviously there's a lot more at play in Bentonville than just the trail system. But it does seem to me like more of the states in the Southeast are really digging into trail sports in general. And this event in Alabama feels like another step in that right direction. In fact, in the press release that you sent out, the Alabama Tourism Department said that this was like the year of Alabama trails. So
Yep.
are you seeing that as more of a trend too, or is it just me finally realizing that the Southeast has good trails?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. Um, but I do think, the thing that has been eye-opening to me and that was really interesting to see with Alabama, and I think what other states are seeing is in the state of Alabama, they're seeing the trails as an important driver. But what is actually happening is they are courting, there's a organization called Innovate Alabama, and they are courting tech companies and industry to come to the state. And they realize that to do that, they need to provide opportunities for people to recreate, and that that's one of the things that might get people to come and set up shop and live is if there's all this recreation happening in the state, it's another reason for the tech sector to come and say, here's a great place to live. It's affordable, it's recreation, you can get in and out really easily to do business. And so I think it's like this whole ecosystem of things happening, of people realizing that it's not just about the trails, it's about like a whole lifestyle that people want to live and looking for more affordable places for that to happen and places that, people can build a life where they can do the things they want to do easily, affordably, and build a family, build a network, build community around it. So I think it's exciting because I think like I have been so impacted by the power of being outside and the community that comes with that. And so any place where that can happen and people can be a part of that, I'm just excited for communities to be investing in that side of things and all of the benefits that come along with it. So I'll be curious to see what's to come.
I was going to ask that too, Aaron, whether or not this new race in Alabama and the effort that they're putting into building trails is downstream of what's happened in Bentonville, because it feels like that model, there's so much that's attractive about it. It makes Bentonville more appealing to residents. Like it increases quality of life. It makes it more appealing for tourism dollars. The probably boosts the local economy in a lot of ways. For the businesses that are there, it's probably easier to attract talent to come work at their companies, in Bentonville's case, that being Walmart. Is this effort in Alabama in some way influenced by the success of the Bentonville model?
I think so. I haven't asked directly, so that I am going to ask that. I do think that trickle down has happened, and it'll be interesting to see, to what happens when in Alabama does this and there isn't the Walton impact? And can communities find sustainable ways to build trails and build communities and attract business without such a major stakeholder? I really hope it works because I think it then gives a lot of hope to communities to say, we can invest and we can invest strategically, but it doesn't have to be at the Bentonville scale. It's possible that that's like the North Star, but we can do it in our own way that makes sense because not everybody's going to have those resources. And it's amazing what has happened in Bentonville. I mean, it's just, I do think it has become a beacon, but what does it look like to do that at different scales and different proportions that's right for that community? And yeah, I'm just super curious to see how that happens in different ways and different models that maybe we can all learn from and continue to iterate off of.
I think the closest example, probably in at least mountain biking, is what happened in Whistler, right? Like
Yeah.
20 years ago or so, they made these epic mountain bike trails in Whistler, and over time, they actually ended up increasing their summer revenue to eclipse their winter revenue.
No
And
way.
then all
Wow.
of the other resorts saw that and hired the team that built, I think it's called Gravity Logic.
Gravity, yeah.
They built all the trails in Whistler. That team got very busy running around the world
Holy
creating
smokes,
trails.
we got to have them on the pot.
Right.
See? Wow.
Oh yeah, every bike. I feel like many bike parks you go to, if you do a little looking afterwards, you'll see Gravity Flow did the trails, and you can almost feel what their trails feel like as a signature move, which is awesome to be able to build these trails and create this whole network. And yeah, Whistler is well, it's on my bucket list of trails to ride for sure.
Well,
Pretty
maybe you
epic.
could then just describe what it's like to be in Bentonville for those of us who've never been. We had Peter Abraham on the podcast probably like 6 or 9 months ago, who was singing the praises of the Walton investment there and how fun it is to be a mountain biker just visiting the place. In fact, he was looking at buying property there specifically because of the fact that he'd be able to do what he loves to do, which is ride his bike very easily out the front door. So it's a direct example of this investment leading to exactly like what the vision is, making it more appealing to people like Peter, outdoorsy individuals who want to come spend their money. You guys have a couple of events in Bentonville too. So maybe you could just describe like, yeah, what's the vibe there and how has that investment led to, increased quality of life or just like enjoyment of being in the community?
I think what I see, and I am not an expert on Bentonville to the extent of some others, but I would say from what I see is the accessibility of trails and the interconnectedness of trails and the variation of progression is what I have seen in Bentonville, and the embrace of the community as that being a driver. So, like the accessibility part for me is like you can leave your front door and ride on bike path and ride on protected ways to get to a trail, and that can be a part of your everyday life. It doesn't have to be this special occasion where it's like, okay, let's load up our car and figure out where to go. Like you can go on the sidewalk and then you'll find a little bike trail cut in that will take you to a larger network of trails. And so you can do something after work or after school straight from your house, and it doesn't have to be a whole epic adventure day. It can be a part of your everyday life. And I think things like that and embracing events and embracing all different events. I mean, we're not the only event that happens in Bentonville. There's tons of other bike events that are happening there, and the community has embraced it as a part of their identity. And therefore, riding your bike, you're not feeling super concerned, hopefully, that you're going to get hit by a car on your way to the trail. You're going to have a place to lock your bike up. It's like all these little things, I think, in the environment that make it conducive to feeling like I can do this every day versus, oh, where am I going to put my bike? How am I going to get to the trailhead? How am I going to make this happen? That to me feels like what makes Bentonville a welcoming community to ride bikes in. And Aaron, I don't know what your experience has been
Yeah.
um, as well.
I think one of the things that Bentonville does right that a lot of other regions could take notice of, aside from welcoming events and putting infrastructure in place, is the fact that they have built it with an eye for the beginner rider. So there are
Mhm.
advanced trails, surely, but there are also trails that I could take my kids on. There are trails I could potentially convince my wife to ride a mountain bike on. And this is how you get people into the sport, because actually the way that we've gotten people into mountain biking in the past is basically drag them up the mountain and maybe hope that they make it to the bottom, right? It's kind of terrifying to get into mountain biking for the first time. If you're just going with the local homies on their favorite trail, you are probably being put in over your head, even if you've watched a grip of how-to videos and even if you've rolled around the neighborhood or you grew up riding bikes. Mountain biking is scary, and
You literally just told the story of how I got introduced to mountain biking.
best of luck,
Yes.
that's
Oh,
it.
just don't break. You'll be fine.
I think that Bentonville has figured out, hey, if we have a skills area for people to go from 0 to 1, they will then continue on and get more excited and also utilize all the other stuff that we built for them. And there's a very clear way of progression from I feel comfortable riding down this steeper hill, and now there's a even steeper one. Oh, now there's a drop off. You can progress from 0 to hero pretty quickly there, but a lot of places don't have that built in. And I think that for all the other regions that are considering building out a trail system, building out events, trying to, Northwest Arkansas is reaping $137 million annually in economic benefit from the trail system that they have.
Unbelievable.
So if you wanted that, the key to it isn't put on the gnarliest event. isn't, have all these things. It's actually probably closer to make it easy for the however many people that live there and visit there to just get started and let them follow their curiosity, follow their progression.
If you build it, they will come. Well, I diverted us away from talking about Lifetime, but maybe final word on this Bentonville diatribe here is I just envision it as kind of like Girona of the South. When I visited Girona, it was so cool. Like no matter where you were, there were people in running clothes or cycling apparel sitting at the cafe, people's bikes just sitting out front of the local cafes. It seemed like everybody got around on foot or on bike, and it just had this air of sportiness to it. And that's what I envision with Bentonville. I got to go experience it for myself. But coming back to if you build it, they will come. Something that a lot of people are going to be coming to soon that you guys built, Sea Otter, one of the most important, events in mountain biking. And I know you're probably very busy with it, Sarah. So maybe just fill the list. Aaron and I have talked about Sea Otter a million times here on the podcast, but maybe just explain from your perspective why it's important for Lifetime, what purpose it serves for the business.
Yeah, so Sea Otter Classic is 35 years old, and it was an event that we at Lifetime we did acquire that event in 2021, and we still have many, many people on the team who have been with the event for 20 years, 30 years, 35 years, the whole time. So coming up fast and furious here. I like to think of Sea Otter as the Coachella of the bike world. It is, or the South by Southwest of the bike world. It's where, not to be cliche, where everybody comes. It is the industry comes to do business, media come to see what's happening in the industry, fans come to be a part of 12 plus races and rides, walk around the festival, see what's happening, connect, and families come out to find things to do together and celebrate their love of bikes. And I think what makes it special is all of those audiences coming together, and not just coming together, but I think being in a beautiful location to do that is actually probably the little secret sauce that I think is what makes maybe Sea Otter so special. It's like you can go to a trade show and be you know, in a hall somewhere, but can you be in Monterey in spring when the flowers are blooming and the grass is super green and it's like awe-inspiring to be outside? And how could you not be excited to be in a beautiful place riding bikes and being with other people who love bikes, whether it's your job or your hobby? I think that's like what makes Sea Otter unique, is that people have fun, whether it's their job or a hobby, being at the event. And for us at Lifetime, I think it just fits perfectly because it's about connecting to the community, connecting to the industry, and it allows us to really kick off the season in a way that is unlike anything else that happens. And for us to be a part of fostering the cycling industry and fostering business to continue, and for fans to be a part of it, like that whole all of those audiences coming together for us is just like the perfect sauce for continuing to promote cycling in the US, and kind of for Sea Otter to be the hub of that and the kickoff of that just feels like the right thing for us as a business to be in this place of where it all gets started.
It's also going to be the first time for me that I get to see the sun in 2025. So
Oh,
I'm pretty excited.
congratulations.
It's been raining nonstop here in Portland, so I'm very much looking forward to, yeah, getting to the sunny California.
California, dude. Come on.
But honestly, Aaron, I feel like that's what actually, the location is important for the event. I think like coming to California in the spring, for a lot of people, it's not a tough proposition to say you want to come spend 4 days in beautiful sunny California and shed your winter layers and kick off the season. Like I live in Leadville, I am psyched to be in California for a bunch of days at this time of year.
How do you think about an event that's been running for as long as Sea Otter has? I mean, there is some sort of legacy built into it, but surely there's some ideas that you want to implement as a high functioning, event crew that would probably make it better, but does it go against, what has always been? How do you balance those two things?
I think that is like at the heart of what we're always talking about as a team. And to me, what has made Sea Otter really successful has been a combination of extraordinary discipline as a business. Like, you don't stay in business for 35 years without discipline around who you are and how to make it work, but also try new things. And things have come and gone in Sea Otter over the years. And we've tried new things and we take things away, we bring things back, and we are thinking about how to tinker as much as possible. And I think that openness to like what's new without going too far and straying away from the roots is like every brand, I think, has to wrestle with that of like how do you innovate without losing your heart and soul, and also the discipline around like what makes the event successful. I think that's like at the heart of every, hopefully if you're in a position of leadership, like your job is to figure out where are the places that we have room to try and how do we do it in maybe some test areas to see what works versus we're going to just kind of whack-a-mole try everything that comes our way, because there's certainly a lot of opportunities with Sea Otter um, to go in a lot of different directions and try different things. And if we did all of it, I think it would look really, really crazy as an event. You would be maybe everything to nobody in a way if we did everything that everybody wanted us to do. And so it's a little bit of a high level answer to your question, but like that's the framework that I think about it and as a team. Um, and yeah, like trying what's new. Like gravel was not a big deal for us at Sea Otter. If you just even a couple of years ago, like we had some feedback that our gravel race was pretty uh wasn't that exciting for people, let's say. And now this year it's going to be a part of the Lifetime Grand Prix, and we have 3 laps, and the pre-rides that I've heard have been awesome. And there's 30 mile, 60 mile, 90-mile options, and the event is hugely popular. I think we've had over 50% growth in participation numbers from mass participation in gravel. And so that's just like following where the industry is going and meeting what the needs are. Um, that's a part of what we're doing too. So it's a complicated, I think, answer in a way, but also simple.
So cool. I need to go, guys, but I am going to unfortunately be
Yes.
in Portland during this time, looking at the calendar now. Yeah, our event.
2026.
Yeah, for our event, Gorge Waterfalls takes place the
Yeah.
same time, unfortunately this year, but eventually I will make it. I know Aaron was there last year and we talked all about the panel that you went and watched, right, Aaron, with Rebecca Rush, etc.
Mm.
And so I would love to understand, just looking at the schedule of events here now. I mean, you describe Sea Otter as a festival, right? You compared it to Coachella and South by Southwest and stuff. And that to me is so appealing and sounds so fun. So maybe practically you could describe, how that is different from other races from a business perspective, right? So I'm sure you're selling race registrations there. There's also like a big expo where brands, I'm sure, are paying to come exhibit their new products. It's also different in that, obviously you have a presenting sponsor, that being Continental, which is, a tire manufacturer, I think, from what I know, my little knowledge about mountain biking. But it's a different model from a sponsorship perspective, it feels like, too, because like all the brands are there and everybody's
Yeah.
sort of like playing nice together, which probably engenders just a feeling of closeness and collaboration within the community and the industry.
It is a bit different from some of our other events that are more focused on there's maybe one race, let's say. There might be multiple distances, but there's a race and that is the sole purpose of coming together. This is really about all of the prongs of the event. We have over 1,000 exhibitors who come
A
and
thousand
want
exhibitors?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
You got to bring an extra bag with you for the stuff that you get, whether it's free
Yeah.
samples and trying all the new product, and then you just see the cool new gear that's being launched. And so you have to the tip I think is bring an extra bag with you to Monterey so you can have a nice collection to take home with you of all of your stuff that you're going to get.
I went home
Um,
with a new bike last year, so
oh, nice. Doesn't quite fit in your carry-on bag, but I love it. Love it. That's what we hope is the bike love is real and hopefully you take that home with you. But yeah, I think the event itself is so big, but at the same time, hopefully still has a familiar feeling to it. It's a place where you can reunite with people that you haven't seen in years, or if you're new to the bike community, I think the big thing that when I walk around is people are just excited to talk to somebody else who loves bikes. So even if you're not somebody in the industry or have big connections, you can come and turn to the person next to you and start chatting with them, and they're just excited because somebody wants to talk bikes with them. So I think that the difference between this event and some of our others is like the expo really is at the heart and soul of the event. The racing is so important. You get to try out new bikes, demo product on hand, but you get to be a part of this immersive community for 4 days that just feels like a homecoming in many ways. And I think that's that's a really special thing that I don't think a lot of us get all the time is to like come together in that way. And it's a intermingling of, the industry and the fans in a way that's really unique. And I think the industry are fans and maybe fans want to be a part of the industry, and it's like we're all a part of it together at this one event. And I think that's what makes it so special, and it is different from some of our other races. And I love that we get this little moment in our event schedule to have this kickoff in such a grand way.
One of the things with the entire community of the cycling industry is obviously things have been pretty rough lately in terms of businesses being in tough spots and whatever. How does that manifest when it comes to the event itself? I mean, there are people that are under heavier constraints than they've ever been. The industry is in a rough spot, but they're still turning up at Sea Otter, or in some cases, maybe they're not able to turn up at Sea Otter. How do you think about sort of the machinations of the industry itself when you're putting on arguably one of the biggest events in the sport?
Our goal is we want the event to be fun and successful for everybody, and taking care of the industry is an important part of that. And we know that brands are having a tough time, and so we want Sea Otter to be really successful for them. So we want them to have a great experience, and we will work to make that happen. Our team that works with the exhibitors is the best in the business in terms of making sure that we know that companies are investing a lot of time, money, resources to come to Sea Otter. They're paying for their space. They're sending their team of people. They're thinking about how to have a cool booth experience for the fans. Like, we understand that, and so we want to match that with the experience that they have, and provide that with great people to come, media, for us to really work hard to promote the event and it be something that's worthy of the investment. And, I said it before, but we hope it's fun for them. Like, if they're going to invest their dollars somewhere for their team to use this as for everything they can to be a part of that. And if they can't be an exhibitor, we offer a whole industry connect program, which is you can come to Sea Otter as a festival attendee for free. If you're in the industry, in the outdoor industry, you can come. And so maybe, if one year it doesn't make sense for you to set up a booth and to be an exhibitor, please come and be a part of our industry program. We want you at Sea Otter, and we will keep working to make sure it's a great place to do business. And that's like our team's focus is we want it to be a great experience. We want it to be as easy as possible. As with an event of this size, like, we want to make it a place where you want to come back.
I love that. Lucy, there has to be a Second Nature meetup at Sea Otter.
There is, as a matter of fact.
Oh my goodness.
Thursday morning, 9 a.m. at the Smith booth. We're all getting together. So I will see, hopefully, a handful of our listeners there. I think we got something going in the Slack channel about it. I think we'll have a pretty strong crew. But Smith booth at 9 a.m. on Thursday. Sarah, you're invited. Since you're a Second Nature listener, you're more than welcome to join us.
Okay, now I get on the list now.
Yes. This is a very exclusive list here.
You might be busy. I don't know. There's a big event happening.
There's a big event happening. There's a Lifetime Grand Prix kickoff that morning.
No, you'll be
try
free.
To swing by.
You'll be free.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like
is important.
It.
Prioritize the Second Nature meetup. I love what you said though about like, we want to make sure Sea Otter is a good place to do business at the end of the day, right? And like, I think that's what sets it apart. And it was really the whole model that we're trying to more or less play at TrailCon also, you know, being a place where all the industry is already there, the media, the pro athletes, the coaches, the agents, you know, the creators, brand people, etc., are all in the same place at the same time. Like, how can we create an environment where people can get together, have fun, first of all, but yeah, maybe it leads to some fun professional networking or potential collaboration in actual business down the line. And it makes me want to transition to talk about trail running a little bit, because I would love to know specifically how Lifetime is thinking about it. Obviously, you've been a longtime steward of the Leadville 100, as we've already mentioned here, but it seems like cycling has taken up most of the focus. So maybe you could just share a little bit about how Lifetime's thinking about trail running and whether or not it interests you guys to try and mimic the success of the Lifetime Grand Prix in a different sport.
The balance that we come with is, how do we stay at our core what we really are, which is mass participation. Like, the Lifetime Grand Prix is a big endeavor that we have undertaken in the cycling world, and it is in the professional space. And really, like, our business and what we're really good at is mass participation events. We haven't even touched on the whole other side, my counterpart who does our road racing events. We have road racing events in Chicago and Miami with the Miami Marathon, and massive mass participation events in the running space. In Chicago, Miami, we are doing big city runs and races. And I think that's who we are at our core, is getting the everyday athlete out there to participate. And I think on the trail running side, that's where we've stayed. I don't know, maybe there is an opportunity for something else down the road, not discounting that, but like, I do think our core business is the mass participation. So how do we keep that as a part of what we're doing and at the heart of what we're doing? So yeah, I don't know, Dylan. I feel like we've got to talk about that. Do you have some ideas?
Well, I mean, I was more just
ideas.
I've never had a lack of ideas.
That's probably not the right question.
No, but I feel in a lot of ways that trail running is sort of 10 years behind mountain biking, maybe even more than that. And you guys have obviously figured out something that has worked really well, it seems like, in off-road cycling. And you know, the Leadville 100 has been a legendary race for a long time, and having that core piece of IP in trail running gives you license, I think, to expand beyond it. And I know you have other trail races beyond the Leadville Racing Series, but that's certainly the kind of the premier element to it. It is becoming hyper competitive and very fragmented and confusing on the professional side of racing right now. So if Lifetime were to add the Lifetime Grand Prix trail running, it may be one of those things where it's like, you know, how does this fit with the UTMB World Series, the Golden Trail Series, the Golden Ticket Series, Sky Running, etc. But there's no reason why it couldn't exist, especially if you get the buy-in from the 50 top professionals in the world like you have with the Lifetime Grand Prix. But maybe the better question is like, yeah, like the Leadville 100, iconic event, but less than 1,000 people do it. You wouldn't really call it a mass participation event as it compares to the Miami Marathon, for example. You live in Leadville, but so you know exactly just how iconic it is. So maybe you could just share like a little bit about that specific event, how it impacts the community, because this is, I think, also an extension of the Bentonville conversation. The Leadville race series, in a lot of ways, keeps the lights on for the town itself, and Lifetime has sort of been the initiating force in like keeping that going into the next generation.
It's a careful dance with every community, and every community needs something different. And in Leadville, we are in constant communication with our stakeholders here. It's really important to us to be good stewards in the community and to continue to impact the community positively. We just had a working session actually with the community and talking about improvements that we can make within the race series, whether it's, the really fun and topics of parking and porta potties and all of that. Like, those are the things that when you're living here are impactful to the everyday life. And we want to make sure we're doing the best for our community and respecting the places where we do business. And so I think that one of the things that our team has really focused on is like finding ways to connect to the community, whether it be the town halls, working sessions. It's just a constant dialogue for us to figure out what are the pain points that we may not know about, and then how do we promote Leadville as a great place to visit, and we want Leadville to be the star, and it is.
Was Leadville the first event that Lifetime brought into the fitness business?
I'm trying to think if it was, or if any of the Miami or Chicago came first. I'll have to look into that because I actually don't know the answer, but Lifetime came on as a sponsor actually
I remember.
of Leadville, which is really outside of like, we didn't sponsor anything. Like, that was not what our model was as a business. Like, we didn't, that wasn't a part of what we did, wasn't a part of the marketing strategy. It wasn't to go out and sponsor lots of other things that were happening. But Brahm like loved this event and thought it was so fantastic. It's like, got to be a part of it. And so we were a sponsor before it actually turned into an event that we owned.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think the legend was that he became so obsessed with it that he was like wanted to talk to Ken Klober and the founding team of the Leadville 100, and it turned out at that point they were kind of looking to wind down themselves. It had outgrown their capacity to keep up with the demand, and Lifetime stepped in. And after a period of, there was public
Yeah.
growing pains. Now I think everybody agrees that Lifetime does a fantastic job not only with the Leadville Trail 100 run, but with the whole race series itself. And it makes me, maybe before we wind down, Lucy, I don't know if you have anything else, but it's just striking me now that there's kind of an interesting parallel between a lot of your events, right? Like, we just talked about Bentonville for a long time and like what trails and sport has brought to that community. We're just talking about it with Leadville now. And another, I mean, obviously Monterey stands on its own. It doesn't necessarily need Sea Otter, but it's the perfect place to host it. But also Emporia, Kansas, one
Yep.
event that we haven't talked about that has become a global phenomenon is Unbound. So maybe you could just share a little bit about Unbound, its significance to your event portfolio, and then you could just sort of tie it back to this bigger theme that we have of like the event impacting the local community.
Yeah. It's Unbound and Emporia is another perfect example. It's a place that used cycling and a major event, that was created from the ground in Emporia, to create a reason for people to get out and be a part of the community. It's just like so many things that happen. It starts small. It doesn't necessarily have this. Some events maybe have a grand vision. Like, I think, the Leadville 100 had a grand vision to reinvigorate Leadville, and maybe at the time didn't foresee the exact trajectory of what that would be. And same thing with Unbound at its origins was like, how do we impact this community using the resources that we have here to drive interest in our town and create other reasons for people to be here. And I think what we do really well at Lifetime is we foster that. We believe in that mission that we can use the outdoors and our events can be a catalyst for the communities that we're in, and we can be in partnership with that. So Unbound Gravel, is in my mind the iconic gravel event in the US, if not the world, to test yourself in a way that is maybe unfathomable, especially to maybe the average human who you tell you're going to go and ride 200 miles in or 350 miles for one event in Emporia, Kansas sounds like a crazy idea. And the thing that I think is exciting about some of the crazy ideas and in our sport and in our world of endurance is those crazy ideas form community. It forms like a passion like no other for the people you're around. And then back to the community. It's like the people who come and do Unbound, they love Emporia. Like there is a strong connection to a place where you accomplish something really big. And what I love about what our team does is like hopefully foster that. Like that's what we're there for, is fostering that love and passion for community and sport together. And that's where the magic to me really happens. And that's what makes me excited to show up every day to do my job is we get to see that magic. Like you physically see it at the start line, at the finish line, all throughout the race weekends. It's like nothing else to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got such an incredible lineup of really, like you said, iconic events. Where are you drawing inspiration from? Is it outside of the cycling industry? I mean, there's so many comparisons between, content for events like Grand Prix and, Drive to Survive gets brought up all the time. But
Yeah.
where are you really drawing the bulk of your inspiration when it comes to sort of bringing new ideas and new execution into the Lifetime portfolio?
I think we're looking everywhere. I think all of those are great examples from, I brought them up earlier, South by Southwest, Coachella, small events. I mean, I think the really amazing thing that's happening is there's big events like ours. Some of ours are still relatively small. You mentioned the Trail 100 run is a relatively small event for a mass participation event, but we're looking everywhere of just like what are people spending their time doing, consuming, being a part of. There's just like so many amazing things happening from like High Rocks is like a whole like
Right. Yeah.
what's happening in ways that people are challenging themselves, even people that are creating their own adventures and their own like ways of exploring. I think we're just finding inspiration from how are people connecting in the communities that they are and connecting to each other and like what are the challenges that get people excited every day. So I don't feel like it's about where are we finding inspiration from. It's like there's almost so much coming in that like how do we stay pretty disciplined to not just chase everything that's happening but stay true to who we are. But um there's so much cool content happening and so many amazing events that are hopefully we're lifting all of us up, whether it's small, the small 5K in your town. If that inspires you to like think about what's possible, how do we tap into that sort of excitement that's happening across the country and world to participate in events? So, um, yeah, but certainly I'm loving the explosion of content around storytelling for sports. Like I never thought I would be interested in golf, to be honest. But I watched Full Swing and
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm into this.
Yeah.
So we can do when you put a good story out there, like people get interested if you can find a compelling way to present it. No shortage of inspiration. It's more like, what do you do with all those inputs now?
How's that for an elegant transition to BPC?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well,
Let's
what I
talk
was
about
going to say
inspiration.
was, okay, it means that Sarah gets all her inspiration from Second Nature. I mean, come on.
Is this
You
true?
guys-
Did I
Yeah.
miss the answer? Did I miss the right answer there?
Yes, you missed it. You missed it. But The rest of your answers were great.
Okay. All right.
Just kidding.
There's
Just
always, you
kidding.
need to always have room for improvement.
Exactly. Sarah, you're our guest here. You know the BPC format. Share something that's inspiring you with the audience.
I was gonna, actually, I had something, but I'm gonna change it because I'm gonna say what's inspiring is actually maybe going against the content grain. But this morning I went for a run without any content and just listened to nature and listen to my thoughts. And I was like, I have a lot of inputs. I listen to a lot of podcasts, including you all on my long runs, and spend a lot of time with things in my ear. And I love it. And I think that maybe my BPC is actually taking a moment without any of that and carving out some time to let it all process. And so I'm trying to do that like at least once a week, like not listen to stuff and let the content sink in. So that's like a little bit of a crunchy granola non-analog
Yeah.
answer. But I can go to my other answer if we want to talk about
Well,
something.
let
But
me
that
just
was one that
respond.
I was really thinking about this morning. Was
Sarah,
like,
I'm
it's
doing the
really
same thing.
nice.
I'm doing the same thing right now. And Aaron and I have talked about this both offline and on the podcast. But I found that when I woke up in the morning until when I went to bed at night, I was mainlining business ideas into my head. I was listening to business podcasts when I ran, sitting at my computer working on my business all day, and then laying down in bed reading business books at night. So I have stopped reading business books, number one. And when I'm running, I'm not listening to podcasts right now. So my consumption of audio has dropped dramatically, which is painful because I'm a huge audiophile and a big podcast listener. But I do think it has really helped me find a little bit more inner peace rather than because it eventually you just can't absorb all the information, even though you want to. And there's so much good information out there now that anyway, we don't want to discourage our listeners from listening to Second Nature when they're running, but I'm doing the same thing right now, Sarah.
My long runs, I still will listen, but
Yeah,
on a weekday run, I'm like, okay, you got to take the ear pods out and
yeah,
like let the world settle in. And otherwise, I could be listening to stuff 24/7, like you said. There's so much
yeah.
great content out there, but it's a little bit of letting go for me. So.
Amazing. Did you have another quick one that you wanted to
Well, one I
squeeze
was
in there?
thinking of this morning is being in Leadville. I was thinking about Melanzana as a
Oh,
brand.
iconic.
And I really think I have a lot of respect as a brand for someone who knows who they are and sticks to it. And, there's a lot of talk on business podcasts and everywhere around growth. And we talk about it all the time we're a publicly traded company and growth is important and showing growth. And there's always a room for that in business. And I think it's important. And I really appreciate brands who, if growth is not their number one reason for being, that they're sticking to that. And I was just thinking about them this morning as like continuing to stay true to who you are, creating a sustainable business that makes sense for you, your brand, your community, yourself, like as a business owner. Like, what does that mean? I just have the utmost respect for brands that do that, and I think Melanzana is an amazing example of that.
Two great contributions. Thank you so much for that, Sarah.
Sure.
Anybody who's been to Leadville knows Melanzana. They're right on the main drag as they have been for a long time, and they make great products. Lucy, you want to go next?
Okay, I've got a very obscure one for
Okay.
today.
Can't wait.
It's actually something that I'm going to do at Sea Otter too. So there is a brand called Final Boss, and I've actually got it here. I got props today. Thinking about like the flywheels and how you might make these different things work, right? There is a content creator by the name of London Lazarus. Guy totally blew up on TikTok. He's not necessarily a sports guy by any means, but we always talk about this idea of content to commerce. And I have a physical example here, Final Boss Sour. And, one of the things that's super popular in all of content is this idea of the reaction. And so this guy who's like a really big TikTok star founded a company that basically has these sour snacks, and they're actually like, there's not a lot of weird stuff in them. It's like malic acid, citric acid, and then you've got strawberries, blueberries, and cranberries, right? So there are these different sour fruits that you can have, and there's 3 different levels of them. So it tees up for more TikTok content and more short form content of people trying these like crazy sour things, which then gets more people to jump in and buy more. And it's just this incredible flywheel that sort of fits into his thing. So one of the things I'm going to do at Sea Otter, because I got a little box of these, level 1, 2, and 3, I want to make a little piece of content going around and running into my favorite athletes and giving them some of these sour things and recording their response, because there's only so much bike content you can create at a bike event. So I want to like zig while everybody else is zagging and just do something a little bit funny, different, and get some real reactions out of people. And I don't know, it's kind of a fun one. I tried it on my family and it didn't go that well, but I feel like Sea Otter is the place to do it.
So good. All right, I'll close this down here. I was going to go with an article I read in the New York Times, but Lucia, maybe we save this for a full segment on the pod, because I feel like we could go back and forth on it for ages. And instead, I'm going to use LeBron James' interview on the Pat McAfee show last week. Did either of you see this? Do either of you follow? Okay.
I'm going to have
Honestly,
to now.
Top 5 sports interview in the history of man.
Wow.
So freaking good, and it was a total surprise. And as Pat McAfee did, he titled it in the perfect way, The LeBron Versation. 75 minutes, totally unfiltered with the GOAT. It was so organic, so free-flowing, so just natural and organic, and so refreshing compared to what, you know, you often hear on ESPN, which is more like canned responses that are squeezed into short-form interviews. LeBron's interview with Pat McAfee is so good, and it reminds me of what we talk about all the time about the importance of being a practitioner. And, you know, McAfee and his whole team, I mean, Pat was a professional athlete himself, and they, I think, do such a good job of like bringing out the true realities that these people deal with in a way that engenders trust. And it's something that I aspire to do with everything that we do at Free Trail and Second Nature. There was 2 insights that I thought worth sharing here. Number 1, LeBron makes a comment about like him developing a habit of winning, like knowing how to win. And he said, you know, goes back to when he was in high school, they were winning state championships, etc. Obviously he skipped college and went straight to the NBA. And that was like the first time when he wasn't winning. And even though he was getting to the finals, it was basically LeBron carrying the entire team on his back, which led, of course, to quote unquote, the decision in 2011, I think it was. And listening to him talk about the decision, which a lot of people look at as LeBron's only controversy in his whole career, somebody who's had an impeccable record, when a lot of athletes run into problems in the press or in their personal lives with substances, etc. LeBron has sort of kept a clean reputation, except for the decision. So hearing him talk about it in retrospect is fascinating. He says, I didn't really put this together. He was 25 when that went down. So think about when you were 25, and he's already the most famous athlete in the world at this point. When I was 25, I was a complete idiot. I'm not much smarter now, but I was a big idiot in those days. And at that point, he had only ever in his entire life lived in Akron, Ohio. So when he was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was still living in his hometown in Akron, Ohio, which he had been his entire life. And so this decision to move to Miami was in service of him, you know, reconnecting with how to win, which he was ultimately proven correct in doing because he won his first championship in Miami. But also it just set more of a context for me of like, yeah, you could look back at the decision as like a mistake and maybe the execution was off, etc. But the dude was 25 and it was the first time he ever left his hometown. So just to me, this Pat McAfee interview humanized the inhuman LeBron James, who has defied age, who is unequivocally one of the greatest athletes, and who can be viewed as a superhuman. A humanizing interview and a must listen for those of us who love sports and the greats who, create so much of the conversation around sports.
All right.
All right.
More content in my ear.
Yeah, there you go. On your next run or mountain bike ride.
Time for a long run.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that was a super fun one, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Lucy, any closing comments here?
No, I'm excited for Sea Otter. We'll see you at the...
See you at Sea Otter.
See you at Sea Otter.